Hello and welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm so excited. It's week 3 of season 4 of the VML. Thank you all for spending your Friday with us. I'm Ellie, also known as Ellie of the Veil on Twitter, and I'm joined by Skybilz, and we have some great matches today. I'm so excited. Sky, how are you doing though?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to be here doing commentary with you today, Ellie. And we have a bunch of fantastic matches tonight, decks from all over standard tonight. So you're not just going to see Gruul, you're not just going to see Rogues. We have a great variety tonight, and I'm looking forward to presenting that to y'all.
Yeah, but before we get into that, we just want to, if this is the first time that you are here, VML is the Venus Mercury League. It is a competitive environment for marginalized genders. So this is a really important thing that we do here. People of marginalized genders get together, they play, they compete. And this particular season is extra special because we have some sponsors that really make the prize pool exciting. So first, just would like to shout out Nerd Rage Gaming, NRG Gaming, for providing a judge, for being our WPN store partner. And then also, big, we're sponsored by Wizards of the Coast this year. And this year, they are giving the first place winner of this season an invite to the Kaldheim Championship. Woo! And our prize pool is $3,000. So pretty exciting. Thank you to our sponsors for making this happen. It's a really big, important part that we have backing, and we can keep doing this. And yep, also Nerd Rage Gaming, they do an online series, NRG series, and through Modo, which maybe you've heard of it, maybe haven't, but it's great. Their next event is February 21st, where they're doing Magic on Magic Online, doing Modern. So shout out to them. But like Allison said, yeah, it's our first time casting for the VML. And we're pretty excited. We picked some heaters. So just a second, we're going to jump into this week's, we're going to jump into the overall meta, and then we're going to go over the matches for this week. I'm really excited, in particular, for a Jeskai mirror. It's going to be spicy. Allison, which match this week are you looking for? Just give our viewers a little taste.
So I have a reputation for loving aggro matchups, but in this standard, that's all we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of aggro, we're seeing a lot of rogues, as stated earlier. I actually like the idea of 2 Doom Foretold decks going head-to-head in the mirror, almost a very similar 75, so I cannot wait to see how that unfolds. I want to know if it's a battle for the hand, battle for the board state.
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to seeing how these 2 different players interact with Doom Foretold, and what is the thing that finally shatters that mirror.
It surprises me that you say you like aggro so much. I don't see it. You seem like a lot of blue vibes I'm getting. Very controlled
Those
vibes.
are from the past year. So Ellie and I used to play at the same FNM for a little bit of background. And I used to play pretty much nothing but aggro there. Even in draft, I would force aggro. But in the past year or so, blue-black in particular, Rogues has very much turned me on to tempo. So that's kind of where those blue vibes may be coming from. How about you, Ellie? What have you liked lately?
I've been playing a lot of Dimir Rogues because I'm a big fan of decks that operate on multiple axes. It's always been my favorite. I like being able to pivot when I need to something else. When game plan A fails, I need a B, a C, probably a D, a Happy Meal, get that going. So why don't we jump into this week's meta? Also, hi, new viewers. We just got a raid. Thank you so much for joining us. This is VML, Venus Mercury League, supporting marginalized genders. And this is week 3, so we're about halfway through. And we're going to have a good time, a lot of good standard matches. So looking over at this week's meta, we have 17 Gruul adventures. Been a bit of a change from last week. A lot of Doom Foretold. Rogues, like we were just talking about. Some monogreen food, which is like a popular one. Love to see Teamer ramp. And then 10 other strategies. So this is an assortment of stuff. We're going to see some of that tonight. Last week there was more strategies. So I think people are starting to slim down, figure out where they want to be. How do you feel about this meta?
The most shocking thing of this meta is the 10 for other strategies. Typically we see maybe 3, 4, but one thing I love about the VML is folks embrace the other strategies. And we are going to see a matchup of 2 other strategy decks. As stated earlier, we get to see the Jeskai matchup. 2 very different decks. We'll get into that in a little while. But yeah, I think folks are getting ready for Kaldheim, and who really wants to stick to the meta so close to when everything is about to be changed anyways? Why not do those what-if decks to kind of close this out?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm very interested to see how Kaldheim shakes up this meta. Gruul Adventures has been pretty much on the top for a while. Does have some difficult matchups, but overall, it's been pretty much at the top of the heap. Same with like Dimir Rogues and Doom Foretold, and I'm pretty ready for Kaldheim to shake things up. Granted, I do think there are a lot of sagas coming in Kaldheim, so that's a thing. We'll see what happens there. A lot of good reasons to play Yorion, flicker your sagas. A little bit nervous about that. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun. People are still shifting. I feel like when in series like this, where it's a weekly series, you don't always switch from week to week. But I feel like, especially the mid-time, you're trying to metagame. You're looking at who your opponent is, what they're going to bring. And we had a couple players who did make that decision thinking, well, this is what my opponent's been doing, so, I'm going to bring this and make some meta calls. Some of them will pan out. Some of them, we'll see. We'll see how it works. So, all right, so let's get into our first game without further ado. Let's take a look at these decks. Yeah, so Noelle Willow is on Teamer Ramp. And this is a little bit of a different flavor of Teamer Ramp. We are normally accustomed to seeing Terror of the Peaks in this kind of strategy because it has an amazing enter the battlefield ability, can clear the board or just immediately take out an opponent. I am sad to admit that that's how I lost a game earlier today. So, yeah, this one though doesn't play that. Has instead Ugin the Spirit Dragons, a lot of Shark Typhoons. So it's definitely a different bit of flavor. How are we feeling about this one, Allison?
So this one is very much all in on the Ugin, and I like, Ellie, how you said that there is an absence of Terror of the Peaks from this deck. So as a result, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, coupled with maybe a couple giant Beanstalk Giants, and also Shark Typhoon, those are going to be the main win cons coming out of this deck as a whole. Yes, you could argue Klothys is a pretty big win con coming out of the sideboard as the one of the Bone Crusher to create the board state. But compared to other Teamer Ramp builds, this very much is all in on the Ugin strategy. As illustrated, typically in a ramp, we see maybe 2, maybe 3 max. Maybe you get that 1 Ugin in the side, 2 in the main board. But here we have all 4 Ugins in the main board. The only rather frightening thing about this deck is how do you hold your own against an aggressive board state, especially when you have one of such value, such as Gruul Adventures between the Great Henge and the Innkeeper. It's going to be a very tall task, especially in game 1, to keep up with the Gruul Adventures build here.
Yeah, I would expect Noelle in this matchup that we're going to see is going to really be relying on Fire Prophecy to sort of fix her hand into the Royal, get a little bit of bounce the creatures that her Fire Prophecies and Stomp can't deal with, or Scorching Dragonfire. Going to really need a hand that has some early disruption that buys her the time that she needs to ramp into those big spells. So let's take a look at her opponent. Mythic Michaela, one of the has a great competitive record, has competed in both Mythic Championship 5 as well as PTRTR. So no stranger to competitive Magic, and we see clearly she's making the choice to bring Gruul Adventures, a tried and true deck, and I would expect we're going to see some pressure here, see her apply that pressure. Has great cards for me. Embercleave, one of the most powerful artifacts to come out in forever, and one of my favorite cards. So I love to see this hit the board. And if Noelle doesn't have the disruption that she needs to stop it, there is no way she's going to recover. So
yeah, Michaela going all in on the artifacts, as Ellie stated here. We're seeing 4 Embercleaves in this build and a pair of the Great Henge. I've been seeing all different kinds of variants of Gruul adventures lately in terms of these 2 artifacts. Sometimes I've seen 3 and 3, other times I see 2 and 2, sometimes 3 and 2. This tells me that Michaela is more in on the Embercleave strategy, just wants to end the game here and there, but the 2 henges there just in case the game goes long and that card advantage is needed. So 4 and 2, definitely a reasonable comp. Definitely more in, again, on that aggro that the cleave provides. Also, we have the Mammoths and the... we're very much reliant on landfall. So we have the Brushfire Elementals. Yeah. Yes, what are words? Brushfire Elemental and the Mammoth there for landfall. And Fabled Passage is another card. You don't think it's significant in this matchup, but it very much is. That can create a very quick game. And especially when you're playing up against a ramp strategy, that is something I would certainly keep an eye on going into this. As for the sideboard, pretty good thing. You got the Wilts for the mirror. You got the Fire Prophecies. You have the Phoenixes in case you run into rogues. The sideboard overall, very well balanced, can handle most of the matchups here. And again, Gruul Adventures being one of those decks where you would not expect green-red to have card value, but here we are, and here it is, and it's just one of the most reliable decks in the format. Totally understandable as to how and why Michaela arrived at this one.
Yep. All right, so let's get into match number 1. All right, give our producer just 1 second to bring up this match. In the meantime, Skybilz. If you could bring back one ban card currently on the standard ban list, what would it be?
So I have one question back.
What is it? Why is it Oko?
You had to put me on the spot with the Oko card.
Well, lucky for you, our game is starting. Our match is starting. We're doing the thing. So
let's go for it.
We'll keep that in our back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have a good starting hand here from Noelle. We have Fire Prophecy, take care of some early things, maybe a Brushfire Elemental or something. A Beanstalk Giant. Okay, not the worst. I like our early play. Starting off with the Triome. I really love Triomes. Have I mentioned that? Oof. All right, so we're starting with a Heart's Desire from Michaela. And keep in mind here that Noelle doesn't have any way to deal with the 5/5. All of her damage goes 3 or less.
Yeah, we see Michaela here on the curve early with the Scavenging Ooze and the Human Token here. So there is kind of this fork in the road here. You can either Prophecy the Ooze to get rid of it right away, maybe manipulate your hand a little bit, or you go for the ramp strategy here. A little bolder, but honestly, Ugin is the way this game ends in a positive manner for Noelle, so totally reasonable.
Yeah, Michaela's going to bring Noelle down to 16. Definitely is going to apply pressure here. Not going to give her any breathing room. The Cultivate's going to bring Noelle to 6 lands. And then looking at 7. So that Genesis Ultimatum is very, very close. We got a Fire Prophecy up. Going to go ahead and fire it off, which I think is interesting. Going to go ahead and fire it off. That is a way for this deck to deal with Lovestruck Beast since it doesn't have a 5 damage spell. This at least takes Lovestruck Beast off the table for next turn. So we'll see how Michaela responds here. Only 2.
Yeah, we're seeing the down.
I'm wondering if Michaela is missing a land. Nope. All right, then. Not even bothering with Stomp. We're just going to play this 4-3. Ooh, here we go. Let's see what Genesis Ultimatum brings. Oh, an Ugin! Very, very nice.
Yeah, as stated earlier, the way in which Noelle's deck wins and works is through Ugin, and look at just the value of the Ugin. And the Ugin's not even finished yet here. It's still going to wreak more havoc onto this match, unless, of course, we do find the Questing Beast.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it looks like Michaela only has a Mammoth, doesn't have a Questing Beast. Noelle's not going to be really concerned. Lots of ways for Noelle to deal with it. At this point, firmly in the driver's seat here.
Yes, and I like the play coming from Noelle here, choosing to use Ugin's plus ability, but responding with the Scorching Dragonfire before that can be pumped up, also providing a 3/3 Shark. Again, just value into this ramp deck.
Yeah, wow. I would not want to be Michaela right now. It's like, how do we come back from here as the Gruul player? It's like, how? Well, what's your plan of attack? Oh, looks like it's a snap concede button. All right, going into sideboards. What is good for Noelle? That game went again very well for Noelle.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So right here, we want to mitigate the board presence on the field. So we're adding the Scorching Dragonfire, maybe thinking about the Bone Crusher Giant a little bit. We're seeing a little bit of that process happening here. And that is so, again, just eliminating that board state. And as Ellie had called out, those Fire Prophecies very much played a major role. And in terms of card value, of discarding that which you don't need, or cycling a card, if you will, and just warding the board state off. That only works, though, if you're not staring at a Questing Beast or something bigger. What do you think is going to play a big role in the second game, Ellie?
Yeah, it's tough for Michaela here because they're not really, it doesn't feel like they're really good for this matchup. The Wilts could come in taking care of a resolved Shark Typhoon, but not much here. The best thing for Michaela to do is land pressure. That game one, not a lot of pressure happening. Didn't see a Brushfire Elemental, didn't see stuff with haste. These things really do matter, and didn't really get that. So I think if I'm Michaela, I'm really looking to get under. So let's see. No Brushfire Elemental. For me, it's one of the linchpins of the deck. I really want to play that. I would really want to play that card. Granted, only 2 mana, so could be holding it for turn 3 or something when she has like a Fabled Passage to really get damage in. We'll see how it goes. Scavenging Ooze, basically a bear in this matchup. Just basically a bear.
The prophecy again on the human here. That much being said, we know Lovestruck Beast is a possibility here. And that's one of the weaknesses in which Noelle has exposed here, is the fact that Lovestruck Beast cannot attack without that 1/1. And there is 1/1s. You have your Brushfire and you have your Innkeeper, but those have been very absent from these matches so far.
Yeah, so Michaela's following up, just going to play the Bone Crusher Giant. Nice thing about Bone Crusher Giant, gives you some, if you target it, get some damage in. But this go around, Noelle's not trying to ramp as quickly. More interested in controlling the board.
And speaking of controlling the board, you have that right now. You have 3 creatures, you have 2 red up. Embercleave could be just around the corner here in this matchup, and that has to be something Noelle's thinking about right now.
Yeah, but gonna go ahead and fire off the Fire Prophecy, which will allow the Scavengers to get bigger, presumably, as long as Michaela doesn't have a follow-up for that a reason to have that 2 mana can be swinging in for potentially 7 here. But swings in for 6, bringing Michaela down to 11, bringing Noelle down to 11. And now looks like Noelle's kind of having a problem here. What do we think?
Yeah, I love that. It's definitely an understatement here, and one that needs to be addressed. Again, that board state is now set up for Michaela. The Embercleave could be in place. The Henge could possibly be in place here, but not seeing that so far. Looking for it with the Innkeeper.
Yeah, but this is still 7 damage at least. Gonna go to 8. Having 2 Oogies in hand doesn't feel great. And she still can't cast that. I don't see how she gets in here. Yep, she's conceding. I think her mana was kind of a little bit awkward there.
Yeah, this match in general, the mana is going to be awkward because of the dual face cards that are either lands or a sorcery, a lands, and a creature. Those are very complicated as to know whether to play them as lands or play them as instants or sorceries. So a little bit of a quick thought process there from the sideboard there from Noelle. Noelle could have stabilized in one more turn. And again, going first is just a very important thing in the current standard right now because of how fast it is, especially in this Gruul matchup.
Yeah, that's a good point. Going first really does matter. One turn definitely makes a difference. Going to 6. Not a great 6.
No, the one thing that is noticeable about the 6 is there is a lot of early action.
Ooh, but punishing 5. Oh, man. Starting this game off with 4 cards. Oof.
But yeah, that's going to be rough.
Yeah. Yep. Once again, for the 3rd game in a row, we start with a Heart's Desire. Not the draw you want, but oh my goodness. It always makes me very nervous when people hold their lands until main phase 2, only because I think of all the times I have done that and forgotten to play my land.
Yeah, I'm thinking about right now, what is the way out? And I think just getting those lands out on the field and then hoping for maybe a top deck into an ultimatum or even into a new game. Probably an ultimatum at this point because that can be casted sooner. But right here, just providing a strong land presence, that could still be possible here on 4.
Yeah, I mean, this game's definitely going to come down to is Noelle going to draw the answers or not?
So would you consider cultivate an answer right now, given all that we know?
Well, no, but if you draw an ultimatum, at least you have the lands to do it. So it's not the worst thing. All right, we are swinging for 6 here and just going to play that Embercleave. Kayla's very comfortable with the fact that shields are super down. Whew. Bringing to 5 within lethal range. Can Noelle do anything about it? Maybe.
Well, speaking of shields down, I appreciate that pun with the shield breaker, by the way. We're going to see this field go down here, breaking the shield, going down to 3 life. My goodness, this is still possible even on 4 for Noelle.
Yeah, will be interesting to see how it would be so classic of Gruul to just play, forest questing beast. But you never know. 3 is very low. It's not a comfortable place to be. But instead, we're going to see 2 Empress Shield Breakers, and 1 chance off the trio, 1 time. Doesn't quite get you there.
Well, that questing beast will certainly get Michaela there.
Oh, almost certainly, yeah.
Good games.
All right, Noelle gives a good game to Michaela. Unfortunately, has now dropped to 0-3 in the series. But that's how it goes, Gruul does Gruul things. If you can't slip, it's not a deck that I think you can really afford to slip up against. It's just made to beat.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the cast in terms of that. So Gruul can draw a hand, and pretty much you're going to get a decent hand most of the time. It may not be the most ideal on curve hand, but you're going to get a really good hand. Whereas that ramp deck, as you saw, it's very reliant upon getting a certain sequence of cards to work properly. And if you get it, you win the game, as we saw earlier. But if you don't get it, you're very much up against the wall. I still think that was a decent 4 for Noelle, all things considered. I haven't seen too many players play that well off of 4, and Noelle was still there, as much as the life total didn't reflect that every step of the way. That is the power of Temur Ramp, but just Gruul Adventures is going to be too powerful and too fast.
Yeah, we saw Noelle at least prioritize the things that mattered. Had removal. It's like, okay, I have 2 lands, removal, some ramp. If she had drawn a Genesis Ultimatum, if she had drawn something else, there's no saying that she wouldn't have won the game. But, the top of the deck is not kind, unfortunately. But it was definitely good games. Good job to those players. What do we got next?
So this was one that I believe you in particular were saying you're really excited for. This is our Jeskai matchup. One being cycling, one being control. So what do you think about this?
Right. So yeah, Sonic Arpika brought Jeskai Cycling, a deck that became popular relatively briefly after Ikoria came out. And now she just decided, you know what? She likes this deck, has it on Arena, feels like it does well against grindy decks. That was kind of what she was anticipating this week, and here we are, an oldie but a goodie, as they would say. Looking to take advantage of apply early pressure, then take advantage of it in the later game with the Zenith flares. So yeah, how are we feeling about this?
So I'm happy you mentioned the flares, Ellie, because yes, at the first glance, when you think cycling in standard, you think Zenith flare, right? All of a sudden, me and Ellie take a look at this deck list before we get started. We're like, wait, that is 4 copies of Improbable Alliance there. If you have not dealt with Improbable Alliance, that card is a menace. It creates flyers and an army of them, and that doesn't even consider the fact that you still have to deal with the Fox. You have to deal with the Valiant Rescuer and all the other ones, and suddenly you're worried about Zenith Flare, but all of a sudden you have this board presence as well.
Yeah, Improbable Alliance is definitely can be super annoying. It's kind of hard to deal with. Elspeth Conquers Death is a very popular card. It dodges that, which could end up being important in this matchup. Another thing to keep in mind here, she is playing Lurrus as they're playing Lurrus as a companion. So even though we're going to see a lot of cards hit the graveyard, Lurrus is going to come down on the battlefield and start bringing them back. So we're going to see several different ways to take advantage of using up the resources, which is one of the fun things about this deck. It's not over until, it's really over. You have to dodge. You have to make sure it's like, ooh, can the Zenith Flare kill me? What's going on? There's a lot you kind of have to worry about. But her opponent, let's take a look at her opponent's deck here. So Rebecca Black is on Jeskai Yorion here. Dream Trawler stands out to me. Love me some Dream Trawlers. Also, what I really like about this deck is it's a Narset of the Ancient Way, not a card that we see a lot in Standard, actually. By a lot, I mean at all. So I hope to see it today.
Definitely getting, and I don't know about anybody else watching right now, is anybody feeling Fires of Invention? Just a little bit here. This is a banned card, but I am feeling some callbacks to Fires of Invention here. We do have that Narset of the Ancient Way. We do have the Elspeth, and we have a few other additional friends too. We have our Skyclave Apparitions, which makes white very powerful. Solemn Simulacrum, Dream Traveler. Just, I'm getting, again, very, very faint vibes of what the remainder of the Fires of Invention deck would look like should it still be in Standard today. And it's really exciting. And with 80 cards, you have so much at your disposal. It truly will be a battle of the companions. Will the recurring creatures dominate here, or is it going to be Yorion, the versatility, and the flash that comes with it?
Yeah, I think a thing that I would really keep in mind is that a lot of the cycling deck kind of gets around this. So like the creatures are small enough to where ECD is not really an issue. The Wrath, even though Rebecca does have Wrath, which could be end up being very important and might be, could be very important at the same time as all the cards that have cycling hit the graveyard, the Zenith Flare gets better. So, and this deck is not playing any main board counterspells, so we might see a pretty aggressive. If we might see a pretty aggressive game one on for Rebecca to have to deal with. A lot of aggro coming her way, a lot of damage coming her way, and then maybe in game two, once bringing in negates, things like that might end up a little bit differently. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, that's a great point between these two decks. One of them is very interactive. We have, Elspeth Conquers Death, which will not play a role, but definitely an interactive card against the whole deck full of cycling cards that is not meant to interact whatsoever. So what's going to win? Are we going to get the interactivity that wins via the board wipe that has shattered the sky? Or are we going to get that interactive, the non-interactive that wins? So are we going to see the Zenith Flares? Are we going to see just the board presence completely dominate here? I'm very interested to see which way the board state's going to tilt in this matchup.
Yeah, so two very different decks than what we're used to seeing in Standard, and I'm pretty excited. So let's jump into game one. All right, so let's see. We do get a little bit peeking of the hands, which is good. We can see what's going on in Rebecca's hand and Sonic, so that's going to be great. Looks like on Rebecca's side, has some stomps, has Elspeth Conquers Death, ECD, things like that. We're just going to go, but true to form, Chess Guy Cycling is just going to do some cycling. Not really worry about stuff. Do some cycling.
Yeah, we're already starting to see that build up here.
The Drawn Singer comes down, will die a swift death to Stump. But like we said before, that's not the worst thing. Yeah, Rebecca's going to play that Bone Crusher Giant. Liking that because there aren't really ways for Sonic to deal with the 4/3. Just sort of has to, block. Best they can do. What's going to be our follow-up play?
I'm thinking the fact that those two Zenith Flares are there, I believe Hika's going to be trying to build up to that as quickly as possible. That could be through, not being allowed to make a board presence, though, will delay the damage just that much more further, and that'll create a tougher situation for the double Zenith Flare in Pika's hand.
Ooh, got a Flourishing Fox draw, but not starting to run out of things to cycle. And Gonna go ahead, cycle the Dronathinger, put a counter on Flourishing Fox. Ooh. Hello, Improbable Alliance. Unfortunately, no blue mana for Sonic to really play it, and needs to get some more cycling cards in hand. Has a bit of an awkward start, and that Skyclave Apparition is just going to take care of that Flourishing Fox. If there was an advantage bar, I would say pretty firmly on Rebecca's side. What do you think?
Yeah, Rebecca definitely has the momentum right now, but part of that comes from not having the blue mana right now and not really having a ton of cycling. There has to be a ton of cycling on top. And unfortunately, Pig is just not getting a break right now, moving the Lurrus to the hand, saying, I really don't have too much else I can do right now. That is a signal for Rebecca.
Yeah, we'll see how long Sonic is willing to block with their 1/1. I believe this is Solemn Simulacrum in Rebecca's hand. Yeah, clear block here. Gonna go down to 10. And this board state
Ellie,
is not looking good.
I gotta ask you something. Speaking of the board state, Ellie, that's 2 Bone Crusher Giants on allegedly a Jeskai control deck. What is going on here? This is not supposed to be a heavy board state matchup between these two. I'm very confused. I think I read the wrong deck list somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that's fun about these versatile adventure cards. It's one of my favorite designs that's come out in the past couple of years. One of my favorite mechanics is just they're really versatile. It lets your control players have some damage, and then when they need it, have a threat. Looking like we're gonna get another Plains. I believe that's our land for turn, and this might just be. I think it's not lethal, but not good.
Yeah, it is important to note that there is still 2 Zenith Flares that do exist in Pika's hand right now.
Yeah, the problem is that those Zenith Flares, I believe, are at 7. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what can they do? That's 14 damage. Becca's at 22.
So I'm thinking you can either get the blocker or go face, hoping that the other Zenith Flare will finish off here. Choosing to go the more offensive route here.
Well, yeah, but we're also gaining life, which is stalling for time, right? Sonic went up to 13 off that Zenith Flare. Buying herself a little bit more time. And Elspeth's going to hit the battlefield. Also a really interesting card to come out in the past couple of years, I think. Giving the team a buff.
This game is wild right now. I don't think I've ever seen a control deck swing this much during all facets of the game.
Listen, sometimes you just assess the board state, you assess what you got in your hand, and you pick a path.
Well, speaking of a path, we do have the Fox here, and there's suddenly the Zenith Flare is starting to look like a little bit more of a threat here with, I know this is going to seem silly, but just 15 life in air quotes here for Rebecca. Suddenly, this is looking a lot scarier than it initially was going to be.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, again, got a little bit further to go, but the lifelink on the Zenith Flare, I think here is very important. Because even if it's not lethal, at least buys Sonic time to get to lethal. And right back up to 22. The life gain in the Jeskai deck is really working out for Rebecca.
So what do you do here now? We're seeing the Yorion situation happen here. You really don't want to do anything with the apparition because it won't do much. You could flicker the Elspeth and get the 5 life back, but you can't do that till the end of the turn, so it's understandable if that doesn't see any play right now.
I'm a little bit surprised by not swinging with the apparition. But could be just playing it extra safe, not wanting another, not wanting to free up that Flourishing Fox. Ooh, and a Yorion's coming down. I imagine we're gonna flicker. I'd like to flicker several things on that board.
Oh, yes, it is important to note the apparition does have a target. It can target the Improbable Alliance. So maybe if Rebecca just doesn't want to deal with it anymore, that is a reasonable thing. And I think that's what we're about to see here.
And we're going to watch everything come back in stronger than ever. Like you said, Apparition Alliance looks like our Skyglaive Apparition is going to target that alliance, which matters here because that's less blockers. Oh, hello. Oh, what? How painful. One short. Oof. It's always fun to see how close something is. And you might never realize it being on the other side of the table, but Becca's going to put herself up to 17. Swinging with the team. No holding back. What's the point?
Do you hang on to the flare?
Looks like it. Gonna go down to 5. Nope. The flare would put her to 16. She's counting damage now. Not looking great because Elspeth can also buff the team.
One of the greatest weaknesses of the cycling deck is that you have to play more than 4 lands.
Yeah. She does have an option here, obviously, to, hold the Zenith Flare and use it. Take out a baddie. Activating Castle Vantress. Can't imagine, doesn't play counterspell, so there's not really any way to deal with the Zenith Flare. Just sort of have to gain life around it, get out of range. Yeah, and Sonic just has so much mana that, like, the second chapter of the Elspeth Conquers death isn't super significant here.
Looks so like what do you even go after with this?
Looks like a minimum of 17 damage. Well, with the Zenith, I don't know. It's hard to say, like, if could just be waiting for combat, or it could be that once this Elspeth Sun's Nemesis targets, if that's what Rebecca chooses to do, just going to go after one of the things that it targets. Don't know. Oh, just choosing to gain life. Rebecca playing it safe. Zenith Flare's going at the Skyglaive Apparition. Okay. How are we feeling about that?
I'd say that's reasonable. You're creating an extra blocker, but at this point, it's going to be really hard to have a win con here. You have one more Zenith Flare left in the deck, and you're dealing with, one cycling card at this point. It's just very, very difficult to recover without a draw source. And Improbable Alliance would provide that, but Rebecca took that out with the apparition. So all you can do at this point is just frantically look for that last Zenith Flare, but eventually you're going to run into lands.
Yeah, so it looks like we're going to go into our next game. Bringing some stuff into sideboards. Not surprised to see counters and hand disruption come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see the duresses. We're going to see maybe even Memory Leak get used. The only problem is the cycling deck becomes less potent when you take the cycling cards out of the deck, with Zenith Flare being the big win con here, or one of the, if arguably the best win con here. That's going to disrupt that a little bit. So it's all going to depend on the sequence in which Pika draws those cards.
Yeah, moving on to Rebecca, definitely bringing in some counters for the Zenith Flare, bringing a Soul Guide's Lantern, which could matter for sure by exiling the graveyards. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And then obviously the Elspeth Conquers Death, which didn't really do much last game, gonna be traded out. All right, starting off on 6, I believe, for both players. It's always interesting to see if the cycling player is just going to wait until they have a cycling payoff to cycle, or if they're just like going to dig and find. Ooh, Improbable
That's
Alliance.
A card off the top.
You like to get that down before your opponent has negate mana. Perfect mana. Perfect. Gonna duress here. Has options. Also, I will say, keep in mind playing that choosing to focus on the choosing to do that. We don't have a white source now, so we're gonna be looking for that. Becca's opting to just negate the duress, make it easy. Here, you can have my negate.
I think the reason why the white mana wasn't chosen there was because you already have Improbable Alliance to create your creatures, right? So the Drannith Healers become a little less significant there.
But we got another duress, and we have choices. What is the cycling player really afraid of? Looks like the Narset. Disappointing, because I would really like that. I'd really like to see that actually hit the battlefield, because I want to see what it does. And First Blood going to Sonic.
Oh, that's
Soul Guide Lantern. Cycling player don't like that. That Zenith Flare is going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, there's still 3 others in the deck, and at any point that the yard could just completely be emptied. It could be in response to the flare as well, so that's not great here. You're going to have to rely upon the field now to win this game.
Which, when your opponent has a Shatter the Sky in hand that you know about, less exciting. Gonna get a 3rd fairy. Ooh, that's a 2nd Shatter the Sky for Rebecca. Yeah, makes sense. Feels nice to cast a 4-mana Wrath when you're not playing a Gruul opponent, because it's like, great. They're not going to draw a card. They're just going to lose their creatures. Feels good.
The one good thing about keeping that alliance right now on the field, though, is you're eventually going to be able to draw and discard, so you'll be able to get through your deck a little bit quicker, which is pretty big here, because then you don't get stuck on lands.
Yes. I'm going to go to 6. Choosing to not bring the Lurrus into hand. Clearly wanting to hold up that Mystical Dispute for something particularly scary. I don't know if Sublime Epiphany... I think Sublime Epiphany is a known entity off the first or this one of the duresses.
Yeah, it was off the second one. It's the thing is though, the dispute's there now. So if I'm sitting in Rebecca's position here, you know that something is up. Since the Luris wasn't brought into the hand, that there's got to be some kind of response there. So I think Rebecca already suspects that the information provided is there has to be some kind of response and or a counterspell, which we'll see right now.
Yeah, Sonic just going to use a Mystical Dispute to take care of the Bone Crusher Giant. Makes sense. They don't really have a lot going on. Another way to really deal with the resolved Bone Crusher Giant besides wasting a Zenith Flare, which didn't work out for her last game. So this definitely feels like it's gonna be a longer game. If we just got little pingers, just little 1/1s. But Rebecca doesn't know it, but Sonic doesn't really have any way to stop her from doing anything fun.
And this is where it's significant that you have an alternate win condition, that you're just not relying on that Zenith Flare right now. And we're starting to see why that's the case with this improbable alliance. It's getting past board wipes at that point. And that's what you want to see if you're someone where, yeah, Zenith Flare is a big win con, but if you're starting to see that there's another way around it through the alliance, through the field, it doesn't matter how many board wipes they have. You're just going to keep creating those creatures through the cycling.
Yeah, well, the nice thing too about the Improbable Alliance is that it does help your Zenith Flares because it's bringing your opponent closer and closer to, lethal. And I believe right now that Zenith Flare is at 8. Yeah, so, and again, every little bit of damage that Sonic gets in without using the Zenith Flare really matters. Other problem is, though, still got a Soul Guide Lantern on the other side of the battlefield.
So there's a couple ways this can be played, right? You could either do it right now, just rip the Band-Aid off, be like, look, here this is. Oh, but there was no response to that. That's interesting. Probably because it wasn't lethal damage. Very interesting play here by Rebecca. Appreciate
being very patient. Definitely being very patient. But like Sonic is at 28, Rebecca's at 7. Gonna probably want to be making moves at some point soon. And another Mystical Dispute in hand for Sonic, so. Becca's just gonna be patient. Okay.
This is definitely, Ellie, I think you put the best word on this game. This is a game of patience right now. And I cannot believe. So like the other thought I had was maybe you get 2 Zenith Flares, right? You activate one and then you have to wait till, your opponent taps out at that point, right? So then they can't Sublime Epiphany at the same time, for example. But you get 2 flares and you wait, and then you just stack one on top of the other. And ideally by that point, it'd be close to lethal. So that's something to also consider here for another type of win con. But again, I really appreciate the patience because that wasn't lethal. And you may want to wait until you do have that lethal hit.
Yeah, Sonic having 2 more damage, potentially 2 more damage, bringing Rebecca to 4 is probably on Rebecca's mind. That Luris also means that permanents are going to start hitting the battlefield that are the cycling payoff. So the Luris itself might be the trigger that causes Rebecca to fire off the Soul Guides Lantern. We'll just have to see, but we're kind of seeing what the cycling deck really does well, which it's using its resources, but it's going to be getting them back. So, which may end up paying off well for Sonic. We'll see. Oh, might see a Yorion.
Oh, yeah. Looking at it right now.
And does have Mystical Dispute mana. Which, it's a pretty easy pay. I'm just going to pay for it.
Yes, it is important to note that this is a pretty important opening now for Luris to hit the field now that the Sublime Epiphany cannot be paid for. So that opens up the next turn for Pika.
But listen, you got a 4/5 flyer. You got that sky noodle on the other side of the battlefield. Might need to go on the defensive. Also, keep in mind,
exactly.
Rebecca has a Shatterpool Smashing, which can definitely get rid of any additional, can get rid of several things. A lot of mana and a Shatterskull Smashing, very good for Rebecca. I believe has 2, 4, 6, 7 damage to spread around as she so chooses. So yeah, it looks like Soul Guide Lantern's gonna get fired off. It's like now it's like Rebecca or Sonic's clock is restarted. But that
yeah, like
that Dran Stinger though.
I was gonna say I like these. How about this swing here too? Just to get the 1 damage, and every damage counts now at this stage, especially when Elspeth Sun's Nemesis is in there with how quickly that took over the game last time. Certainly something that Pika is thinking about at this point.
Yeah, while Amelia's call was to draw the shot, I mean, I still think we're prioritizing. We're still prioritizing clearing this board.
Yeah, I don't fault Rebecca here for thinking for a second here, because those angels also can provide more blockers. Do you eliminate the source in which you have more creatures in there? You can get rid of the Dryness Stinger as well. Or do you create these angel blockers? Probably still going for the Shatterskull here, but definitely some thought being put into this move.
This I find interesting, to just not wipe everything you can since you have the ability to do it, no follow-up, but oh, and that's a Zenith Flare. Yeah. Rebecca knows what's up. It's like, I'm too close to the wire.
Still, though, what a great game as we're going into game 3. Some patience there. We had the Soul Guide Lantern play a role, and lo and behold, again, Zenith Flare didn't need to be the win con here. It did cause a little bit of acceleration of damage, but it wasn't necessary, and those improbable alliances coming into hit play to just completely nullify any kind of positive feedback that the Shatter the Skies could be providing, which comes to the answer. Like, I feel like the Shatters are a necessary card here, but at the same time, they don't do as much as they could, because the field just keeps getting recycled and keeps getting recycled thanks to Improbable Alliance.
Yeah, and Sonic has 2 improbable alliances. So definitely I would not be surprised to see her play a patient game here. Really going to be a problem for Rebecca. Hand's a bit on the slow side and not super interactive and very land-like. I believe has a stomp in hand. Yep. All right, so second improbable alliance coming down makes sense. Gonna start making them fairies. Yep, don't like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, after they ran away with the game, who wouldn't want to play 2 improbable alliances right at the beginning? This is ridiculous for Pika to start.
Yeah, she can just sit back, relax. Oh, you board wipe? I got more fairies. Board wipe again? I got more fairies. What is there to really be worried about? Stomp's going to go ahead and take care of one of them. Pretty aggressive use for Stomp.
Oh, here you go, Ellie. You were asking for it. Here we go.
Yeah, got me a Narset. Love to see it. That high kick, split in the air, or something is happening. Something I can't do. A lot of too many years of yoga for me to even bother with. I'm like, no, that's okay. But Narset's gonna gain life, which is gain Rebecca some life, which is nice. But it's really going to be about these. It's kind of interesting, right? Because it's not like Sonic can just cycle without kind of losing a little bit of value because it's not getting fairies. So it has to kind of time it well. And clearly Narset's not really a threat, at least right now.
Yeah, I like the at least for right now. I mean, you can gain 2 damage a turn, and that also does build up towards the ultimate. So that's something to consider. But this is a big question Pika has to ask. Do I go for the Narset eventually, or do I just go straight into life and eventually the life gain won't matter, especially if a flare's run into at this point?
But you know what card I do like to see in that hand? Dream Trawler.
Yeah.
I like me a Dream Trawler.
We've heard nothing from Dream Trawler yet. That's a really good point, Ellie. That's like there was a 4 of in there, and we haven't seen it. That's wild.
There's two in Rebecca's hand. I'm sure we'll see it at. I'm sure we'll see it shortly. A 5 mana. We are a couple turns away from that, and no land in hand, I believe. But I have faith. I have a dream, as the phrase is. But you're going to just choose to put the Yorion in hand instead of Wrathing. Fair enough.
I like the conundrum with the Storm's Wrath. So Storm's Wrath, pretty good card, right? Until it does damage to your own Planeswalker, which is something that Rebecca had to think about for a second.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely matters that Storm's Wrath hits Narset, but Sonic is going to bring that Narset down to 1. And then cycle some more. Ooh, Mystical Dispute. Okay, we got a Fabled Passage. Really don't want to miss lands when you're in the control seat. Really, almost in any seat, but particularly in control, it really matters. But Narset does provide some mana. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead. Storm's Wrath here. Ooh, to counter, to not counter.
Well, when you think about what the lose condition was in game 1 for Pika, it was the Bone Crushers being aggressive, so I do not fault the counter here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely me neither. Gonna go ahead and play this. I do like that. Now they're gonna get even more creatures off of cycling. It's just like you know, look, never cast. But now we have a Dream Trawler, and that is kind of a problem.
Yeah, not only does the Trawler have a really big defense and it gains life, it also draws cards. It's going to create a whole bunch of sticky problems here just because, again, it does everything. However, we are going wide here with Pika. The problem is that Dream Trawler is going to gain a lot of life. So do you keep it defensive? Do you nullify a lot of attacks here? Or do you just go in the air and hope to draw something that'll wipe the board?
Yeah, it looks like Rebecca's just gonna swing in. Sonic has a lot of fairies to block, a lot of flyers to block, so probably not too concerned. The concern here, I would imagine, is more of the drawing of the cards from Dream Trawler. Oh, we're just not blocking. We're saying, you know what? Why would we do that? Weighing the options, could play another Dream Trawler. Could play Yorion. Could hold up the Sublime Epiphany for, you know, some scary spell. We'll just see.
Yeah, lots of options on both sides right now. And it's rough, right? Because you either hold the fort with the Dream Trawler here, or the next turn you can attack with both trawlers, right? And then bounce them both with Yorion, and then they come back to defend as well. It just depends on, you have to think, how many turns do I have left? And that's something that every control player asks themselves at some point.
Yeah, but we're at end of turn, so that second Dream Trawler's not coming down this turn for sure. So Sonic's going to continue to build her army of tokens. Oh. Sublime Epiphany? No? Maybe?
Looking like it for a second here.
Nope. Gonna do the thing. Draw a card. Make a token of Dream Trawler. Not. Okay, so not the draw here that Sonic wants. Probably doesn't also want to be looking at 2 Dream Trawlers, but... Yep, makes sense. Discarding the gate. What do you need that for? You're building an army. Though we'll see if that comes back to punish her if Rebecca draws like a Storm's Wrath or something.
That is another Sublime Epiphany, which can be used in the same way, which I very much enjoyed the activation of the Epiphany before. Let's see what happens here.
This time we're swinging in for 10. Also, key thing that was drawn, Rebecca drew a Soul Guide Lantern. And no, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, that's right. They trigger off each other, so it's 12. Sonic is just choosing to take out one of the Dream Trawlers while she can. Can't fault her for it. But probably not going to like it when they maybe see the next Dream Trawler. And Rebecca's well out of I'm scared of your Zenith Flare range at 42 life now.
Oh,
following up with that Soul Guide Lantern. Oh. Are the curtains closing?
Looks like it could be. 42 life. That's really tough for even like 3 Zenith Flares to break through, right? Let alone the Lantern being a presence on the field.
Oh, Duress?
Nope.
Yeah, not surprised by the Sublime Epiphany here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to lose it anyways, you might as well use it and gain some more stability on the field as well.
Just doing some cycling, don't mind me. We like to draw cards.
Hey, Ellie, I heard you like Dream Trawler.
You know, yeah, that would be accurate. That would be an accurate statement. You know, I proposed. I not jokingly proposed to the person who designed Dream Trawler.
Oh, really?
I did. It's on Twitter. You can go to my Twitter page, scroll through. It's been a while. Maybe you find it. Maybe you'll get, enjoy the laughs. They left me in the cold. No response. Not even a like. Real hurt. Really, really hurt.
You got everything you wanted, Ellie, in game 3. You got your Narsets, you got your trawlers, you got like tokens of trawlers. I don't know a single other thing you could have wanted in this match.
I mean, not much. I love that this Omen of Sea is going to come down, make those dream trawlers even bigger. So much life.
At this point, if I'm Pika, I'd be like, excuse me, you're only supposed to have 4 copies of a card in your deck. And if I'm watching this and I'm seeing the replay of everything and I'm seeing the other Dream Trawlers in that, I'd be like, this is not right. This is not what this game was designed to do.
Listen, shout out to Pika for not just smashing that concede button at the 3rd Dream Trawler. Just props. I respect the hustle. I respect the commitment to the game. In those Skyclave apparitions, key thing took out not one but both probable alliance. Pretty much lights out. Yeah, that's a big old Zenith flare. You love the move. Just gonna target myself. I've had enough.
I appreciate that, people. Just so you know, good games all around. Wow, Jeskai on Jeskai going to game 3, being on the brink, and suddenly I heard you like Dream Trawler, the sequel, and the trilogy for that.
Love Dream Trawler. I really love the Sublime Epiphany, that game, as well, which is what made those tokens. I really am a fan of the spells that are really versatile. You get to pick and choose based on kind of like what's going on in the game, what's best for you. And it's like you're casting like 3 spells in one. It's great. It's like Christmas. And you get a Dream Trawler. What could be better?
Based on this commentary, I'm assuming Ellie is the person who plays the Dream Trawlers, that doesn't have to play against the Dream Trawlers as the aggro player.
Who, me? A Dream Trawler player? I have been known. I've been known. But it's just, it's just such a great card. It's such a great card. Also, I'm a big fan of seeing decks like these sort of fringe decks, or decks we don't really get to see it normally in tournaments. It's definitely a lot of fun. But why don't we take just a quick moment to rethink our sponsors, Nerd Rage Gaming and Wizards of the Coast. Nerd Rage Gaming is a partner with us this season. They are giving us, which I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Caroline referred to it as a Happy Meal. I think is what a Happy Meal. She called it like a Nerd Rage Gaming Happy Meal, which includes the wonderful MaxCon as a judge. And then we are, don't forget also their February event, which is happening on the 21st, which is Modern. It's going to be a Modern event for the Energy Series. Online, $2,000 cash prize. So check that out. You like Moto. It's been revamped. Great things come out on Moto. I had a cube on Moto. Don't know if you know.
Oh, really?
Timber cube. It was pretty great. Pretty great. Yeah. So as you can see, February 21st, 2,000 in cash prizes. Modern. You can rent your cards using Card Hoarder, other rental services, and have a good time. And Modern's an interesting format. Hasn't had the heavy hand of Wizards getting involved, so people, are doing some stuff. Like Ura, which I love and enjoy. And then also big thanks as well to Wizards of the Coast. Really, really big support for them. Matters a lot. They are providing the winner of this season's VML tournament with an invite to the Kaldheim Championship. Really exciting, contributing to our prize pool as well. And it really helps this series run, helps support our production team, our casting, everything. It's really great. We super appreciate our sponsors. So hats off to them. Now, on to match 3.
Let's go.
Okay, we got Megan, also known from Good Luck, Have Fun, podcast that she does with Maria Bartoldi. Very great podcast. I have a lot of fun. I love watching them. I love watching their content. I'm a fan, Megan. She's on Teamer Ramp this week. Definitely more of a brand of Teamer Ramp that we're familiar with. Those Tear the Peaks, great card. Feels good to land that and other creatures off of a Genesis Ultimatum. Pack up the game. Also is playing Kiora Best the Sea God. Not a card you see often, but a really fun saga. Maybe we'll see it in this match. And yeah, again, centers around Genesis Ultimatum. I'm very excited to see how this goes. Has a bit of a tough matchup ahead of her, though.
Yeah, the one thing that stands out about the Teamer Ramp deck in particular is there's a lot of expensive spells here. And lo and behold, I do notice we are against rogues here, given that context. So we have the cheap spells versus the expensive, I never want to see them spells. So that is the matchup we have going up against each other. So I did see a small preview there of the rogues. Let's bring that out. Got to see what's in the rogue build here. We have our traditional crab. Everybody loves crab. I've seen so many friends that are fans of the crab. I see the crab emotes everywhere. I think it even has a Twitter account now, Ruined Crab. So
deserves fun, one. One. Yeah, so Megan's going to be going up against very popular MTG Arena streamer Jana Amari on Dimir Rogues. I've played this deck a lot. It's a fun deck if you're not playing against it. It's a deck that works off of, has several angles of attack to it. It can mill. It can pivot into more of an aggressive strategy. If it can be the control, it can do a lot of things, which is really important in this matchup in particular, because it's versatile enough to deal with, has counter spells for the, those big spells and things like that. So Jana actually a bit prophetic, was expecting Teamer Ramp and picked that deck for this purpose. So
yeah, right now the key cards to pay attention to, we were talking about versatility. Ellie was talking about it. Drown in the Lock in particular is one of the most versatile cards in the format. Again, fun if you're the one who's playing it and you don't have a difficult decision. Not so much fun when you're trying to land those huge spells and suddenly you can't cast any of them because your opponent has a handful of especially Drown in the Locks.
Yeah, Drown in the Lock's one of my favorite cards made recently. I feel like I keep saying that, so people are going to be like, wow, you have a lot of favorite cards. I feel like you're just making that up. I'm not. Drown in the Lock really is one of my favorite cards. It is one of the things that lets this deck pivot. Okay, am I attacking? Am I being proactive or am I reactive? And it's on one card and it's cheap. And as long as the Dimir Rogues deck does its thing, especially with Crab, makes it easier to fill up that graveyard earlier, it's even better. The better it gets. It's going to have it's probably, I don't expect to see it countering gigantic spells. It just depends on what kind of pressure on the library Jana puts early on. So why don't we jump right in? Ooh, I like this hand. I like this hand for Jana. Pretty nice. On the flip side, Megan's hand, a little bit not super interactive. Lands and spells. But we're keeping it. We're going to keep it.
I like how you said that with more of a question mark. Lands and spells?
Lands and spells? Yeah, well, it's a ramp deck. So we're seeing the other side of the ramp deck. Not a lot of early interaction. And I think it's, it's a little bit difficult, right? With the Shatter Skull Smashing, because it's like, oh, then maybe that'd be a land. You're just not really sure. So
at this point,
I like that Bone Crusher Giant.
I was going to say, gee, I wonder what my opponent's about to play.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it looks like that Thieves Guild Enforcer is going to get stomped, but not before sending a couple cards into the graveyard. I was just wondering if they had 3 cards. 3 lands. Yep. We'll say, thing about rogues, it can get tricky because it does have spells that need double blue, spells that need triple blue, spells that need triple black. So it can get into a kind of tough position. So here we go.
You're making the rogues sound needy.
I mean, it's mana needy sometimes. But we got ourselves... Not to fear, even though Bone Crusher Giant is on the battlefield, will probably require a response, but once again, no land. No land. Jana's going to take 4 from that Bone Crusher Giant. Mecha's going to cycle. Makes sense. Oof.
There you go.
Probably bring a sigh of relief. Thief Guild Enforcer coming down. The second one. Ooh, and another one. My DJ Khaled fans.
This is still early mid. There are few things as potent as, at this point, Triple Thieves Guild Enforcer. And it's very fortunate that Megan was able to take down the first one, because once they start rolling, it's very difficult to stop them. And to make things even worse, they do have Death Touch once 8 cards are in the graveyard.
Yep, that's right. Megan drew the 5th land. So now has a decision between playing a Gargaroth, just playing a Terror of the Peaks. Looks like gonna wait to see how Jana reacts here. Gonna have 4 cards hit the bin. Opting to block rather than targeting it. Don't want to use any spells here. Don't want to waste the Drown on the Lock on that necessarily.
Ooh, I think we're going to get an instance of not saying please here.
Yep. Didn't say please. No land, but luckily the rogues that can work off of a little bit of mana, off of scant mana, at least for a little while. Thought Thief coming down, making Thieves Guild Enforcer a bit bigger and also filling that land. Ooh, I bet if I'm Megan, I don't like to see that.
No. So, going with the Terror here. There were a lot of different options here. Terror very much being the more proactive.
Right. There's a Drown in the Lock.
I know what John is going through right now. John is like, well, do I counter this or do I take it for myself?
I think she's just gonna choose to have it be on the field. Which makes sense, right? You have a bigger board state now, and you're gonna be swinging for more damage. Since Terror of the Peaks itself doesn't do damage when it enters the battlefield, it needs something else to enter the battlefield with it. You get more damage in this way if you're patient with that Drown in the Lock. If that's how she chooses to play it. But also, oh yes, she has Lull Mage's Domination in hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But doesn't have the mana to cast it, I believe. Only has 4. So even though the cost is reduced because of the size of Megan's graveyard, not sure if she... Yeah, I don't think she has, 3 blue. You would still need 2. Yeah, so it doesn't have it this turn.
So I think if you're Jana and you're sitting at 16 life right now, you're thinking, I can afford to take a hit and I can counter something that would enter the battlefield and cause trouble. I think, oh, wait, nope, never mind. Just ignore me.
Yeah, that makes sense. If I think the thing there, you're thinking like, okay, all right, I don't have enough mana to take this Tear Their Peaks, so I just have to get rid of it and get in as much damage as possible for something like an Ugin or something comes down. But ooh, get that last blocker out of the way. And now we see -9. Loved it. We're going to go into game 2 now. Yeah, now we see why Dimir Rogues is such a tough matchup for the ramp deck.
Yes, but there is some sideboard that can assist with that. Shark Typhoon in particular is a very tough card for Rogues to deal with because you put up this big blocker, right? And unless they can bounce it back, it just kind of sits there and it creates a problem situation. The Rogues can still mill out. That's still a very important detail. But at the same time, it's suddenly there's this huge shark on the field. Well, what do I do about it? That's what this whole deck is about that Megan's created. It's I'm going to put a big creature on the field and I have to ask you, what are you going to do about this? And that answer is going to be Shark Typhoon in this case.
Baby shark, do 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 do. Okay, I did it once. I got out of my system. I was holding on to that.
Uh-oh.
Listen, I don't know about you, but anytime that I put a shark on the battlefield, I sing that song. And I assume my opponent can hear it, and then they just have that song playing in their head for the rest of the day. And that's really, truly the victory. It doesn't really matter who walks away at the end of the match. It's who's playing Baby Shark in their head for the rest of the day.
But what if it's not a Baby Shark? What if it's like a 5/5?
Mommy shark, do 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 do. Listen, I can do this all day. Do you really want to subject our viewers to this? I've already done enough.
I don't mind it so much. I think the sharks are cute, personally.
Ooh.
Oh, crabs.
Well, double crabs keeping it. Oh, okay. Yeah, double crabs. Not afraid of nothing.
Double crabs and a negate also.
Yeah. Go ahead. Play the second Ruin Crab. Get as much value off this island as possible. Megan's probably like, oh no.
Yeah, double crab early is quite the nightmare scenario for most decks. Unless you're something like Gruul and you just start playing big creatures and be like, now you have to block with the crabs. But like other than that, for something like this, it's very, very difficult to get anything running when you're trying to cast these huge spells and quickly. And the crabs put a timer on the game.
Grabbing some lands. At least got good. I like the draw of the cultivate. It's like, great, we have something to do because we kept a really high curve hand here. Ooh, I saw a Fire Prophecy and a Genesis Ultimatum go. Oh, hey, look, a negate of our own. What's that? Another land?
Nice.
Nice. Every time a Fire Prophecy goes into the graveyard.
Those crabs are not harmless. Everybody thinks, oh, what a cute O3 crab. No, those crabs are serious business and they mean serious business.
Yeah, Megan's gonna make a shark, make a 3/3. Shanna could cast Into the Story. Refuel in the hand. You love to see it, except when you're Megan. Probably not. Oh, is that a Terror of the Peaks? Hello.
Yeah. One thing you do like to see if you're Megan is tapped mana and all of it.
Yeah, I think it's important to note here that crabs are good, 2 crabs better, but Jana's not putting any pressure, not really putting any pressure to the life total. It's very possible that, I mean, Megan's at 6 mana now. So some of those spells that we were kind of worried about in an opening hand, this is going to get to that. Has a seventh land, could very well get to that. And an Ugin resolving would be not great. So Jana does have to do a little bit more here. That Fabled Passage is going to help.
Yeah, the crab doing the real damage here. Did you see that there were no more basic mountains left in the deck, and the crab caused the trouble? In other words, Terror cannot be played right now as a result of that.
There's a Triumph in Megan's hand, so Megan's just like, nah, forget it. I mean, that could have been the second source of red. We'll see if Megan can get another one. To draw or not to draw? We draw. What could Megan be searching for? Fire Prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, without the double red, we also can't cast Ultimatum either, because that also requires 2 red sources. So the absence of that second mountain just being a very difficult obstacle right now for Megan.
Keep the crab. Protect the Krabby Patty. Jan's going to fire off that negate on that Fire Prophecy. We'll see how much Megan wants to fight over it. And they do.
I appreciate the negate here because at this point, Megan's life total is not life itself. It's the cards that are left in the deck. We don't know how many are left in the deck, but it's not much right now.
Yeah, it's been like 6 per turn, right? At least.
Mm-hmm. Since turn 2.
Mm-hmm. And now Megan doesn't have a negate if, Jana has something else up her sleeve. Gonna play our little merfolk. Little 1/1. So often I see this card cast, and it's really just so that it could be sacked to draw a card. Oh, that was something that we... Yeah, Megan does have more... Should have more... I wish I could see the graveyards. But Megan does have other potential red sources, but we're getting down to the wire. That library looking slim.
Yeah, there's a couple of different options here. Megan trying to just get in at all costs here. And you can make another shark as well for 2. So you have the existing shark. I believe that's a 3/3. And then plus a 2/2. But I don't think that's going to be enough turns here. As Ellie was saying, the amount of cards are slim. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, we're done with that. I believe that would have been 12 cards. Eesh. That was a very, very fast 2-0 for the Rogues player. Congratulations to...
Yes, so that is the challenging part of the Rogues deck right now is there are multiple win conditions for the Rogues. You can win with damage still, especially if you get the Thieves Guild Enforcers out early. You can mill with the Crab, especially if you go double Crab and it's 6 cards per turn. Just something to consider with the Rogues. Multiple win conditions probably means many other different ways to assess games and by default, more ways to win the game. So that was a really difficult matchup for Megan. Megan played it very well. It's just the absence of that second red and the crab being the menace that it is what ended up winning that match for Jana.
Yeah, being able to attack on multiple axes is really important. And it's if you if you're in the teamer seat or if you're in like a Rule Adventure seat, it's still tough because it's with the rogues deck. It's like, okay, if you have pressure, it's like, well, they could still be pressuring your library. If you're like taking out their creatures, it's really tough. So I believe that puts both players now at 2-1. Jana giving Megan her first loss of the season. Yeah, Jana's going up from 1-1 to 2-1. So good for them. They're still definitely in contention for top 8, but I believe Xen2 probably makes it. Yeah, we'll see. But moving right along to our last match of the night. Let's see what we got. We're going to be watching a Doom mirror here. We got Amanda Henderson on Esper Doom with Yorion as a companion. Love to see it. Expecting to she was sort of playing her opponent here, was expecting for Hayu to be on Korvold or be on different decks than what Hayu ended up being on. So we'll see. This matchup's going to be very interesting. We were talking about this before the show. Esper Doom, as you can see with this deck, it's caring about creatures, right? It cares about how much pressure is being applied. But since it's playing a deck with not as many creatures, there's going to be could be potentially some dead cards, and so it's going to come down to very key pieces here.
Yeah, this deck in particular, you have some pretty big win conditions. You have Dance of the Mance, which is probably arguably one of the fastest ways to win the game here. You just return everything back from your grave and then turn it sideways. But then we also have the less overwhelming cards like Elspeth's Nightmare. That's not going to do much in this matchup. And when we show the other deck, that's going to make sense, because what happens when you over meta against an opponent? You end up in the mirror somehow, and in a control mirror at that. So we have Esper Doom, the sequel. But one thing that's very different about this deck, especially in game one and even in the sideboard here, we have two copies of Archon of Sun's Grace and 2 copies of Ugin also in the sideboard. So this is a little bit more of a spicy build of Esper Doom. Despite the 75 being very similar, those are going to be 2 cards to look out for.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Crawling Barons having Hayu has a manland here, so another way to get damage through that's a little bit harder to interact with. Having the Archons of Sun's Grace means at least Hayu's cards aren't going to be as dead, because even if you just cast an Elspeth Nightmare, whatever enchantment you do, it's going to get you a creature off it. So perhaps a little bit more well-positioned for this particular matchup, in the sense that there are less dead cards, so to speak. So yeah, let's jump right in. Ooh, yep. And here we go, looking at hands. Always important for control mirrors. Well, essentially control is lands. Lands really matter. How useful are your cards going to be? Skyclave Apparition, I would expect Skyclave Apparition to do some work, since it can target a non-land permanents, not just creatures.
Yes, one thing I really like about this hand, at first I took a look at this and it was like, well, what do we do here? We only see 2 lands, but there's that Plains hiding behind the Ameria's Call. So you do have one of each, which is something you want to see at the beginning of, especially a mirror where you're both using 3 colors. I think this is going to be a tough hand to turn down.
Yep. Don't think we can see Hayu's hand, but Manda's in the tank over it.
So what do you think of this hand, Ellie? I like the fact that Dance of the Mance is there, considering there's only a pair of those in this deck of 80. I think that's also something to consider going forward, that you already have the win condition in your hand.
I think it's fine. You have lands. The Golden Egg I like to being able. You have things that you can do with your mana, right? I'm less concerned about Dance of the Manse and more concerned of can I get to the things that make Dance of the Manse matter. It's not like to me this hand doesn't have that much going on. Could just be me. These aren't really decks that I normally play. I find it to be something akin to eating extremely dry meatloaf. So I never play these things. Not saying, that this is a bad deck, just not really my cup of tea, There's no seasoning on this chicken breast for me. So I'm gonna be relying on you.
No problem. Because of Rogues, went over to the dark side that is Control this year. So I'm very, very happy to be able to see these two decks in action, especially in the mirror.
Yeah, looking at okay, it turns out we can see Hayu's hand. Great. Right. I'm liking Hayu's hand. I like to see the Omen of the Sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got lands, you got Omen of the Sea. I like this. There's a little bit more that you're doing here.
So you like the early game in this matchup, being able to get that kind of board presence right away. You have those targets for Yorion to deflect off the field, especially with both Omens. I'd say that's a pretty good start, but you also have the reactive hand here now from Manda with the negate, so also something worth considering.
Yeah. But it's just a matter of like, okay, what are we negating? What are the spells in this mirror that matter,
Mm-hmm. Well, I would definitely think the Omens matter the most in the mirror, just because not only do they do something when they hit the field, they can also scry, and they can also create that board presence for Yorion to hit.
But both players being like, got mana? It's like a game of chicken.
Yeah, who's gonna move first?
Who's gonna run into the counterspell first?
No one wants to tap in this matchup. No one wants to be the person to have all of the tap mana first, because that's where all the mirror breaker stuff begins to happen.
Yeah, tapping out's definitely risky. In this case, we can see their hand, so not too. So we know it's fine. Elspeth Nightmare not going to take care of anything, but it is going to give Hayu the opportunity to cast that Omen of the Sea. Or sorry, not Omen of the Sea, Omen of the Sun. Omen of the Sea, the Sun.
They're both omens.
Oh, some omens, get some tokens.
You play the second omen here. This is interesting.
He's going to come in for 2.
No. Maybe.
Be patient. Hayu's being patient.
Oh, definitely.
But this Elspeth Nightmare could force her to do something. But choosing still, just wait and see.
This is interesting because by taking the Amarius call, you also get to discard a land. And that's something that you kind of need right now in order to build up to the Yorion. So kind of both players pondering what's going on right now. There is a knowledge, of course, of the cards in Hayu's hand because of Elspeth's Nightmare. So I guess that's one of the other positives of Elspeth's Nightmare. I was talking about this with Ellie earlier, and it's like, where does Elspeth's Nightmare stand in this matchup? And yeah, it doesn't do much for the first one, but that second activation is pretty key because you can play your turns better knowing what's in your opponent's hand. So something that I did not consider that is a terrific way of breaking this mirror as well is knowledge.
All right, Heidi's going to put the Yorion in her hand. Let me see. Did we miss a land there? Queen to Dust going to take care of that Amelia's Call. That's fine.
It's funny, if you asked if we missed a land from Hayu's side, the answer is yes. That's because the Amelia's Call was taken off the Nightmare, so that was actually a pretty substantial choice there.
Well,
yeah.
There we have it. Another Elspeth Nightmare coming down. Ooh, Skyclave Apparition. That gets around the gate.
Yeah, it also gets rid of Elspeth's Nightmare if you value the cards that are in your hand. I certainly would value Tremendous Blessing in my hand right now.
He's going to be swinging 1, 2, 3 down to 11 mana goes. Apparition coming down on the battlefield, gets around that negate, but we're going to see this eliminate probably.
Yeah, one thing I really like about the way Hayu's playing this game so far is you're playing for board state. You know immediately what the threat is. Also playing around the negate. I think Hayu is just a bit suspicious of a possible negate here.
And now Amanda's going to fire off a Skyclave Apparition of her own, targeting the Omen of the Sea, wanting to keep cards out of Hayu's hand. Still has that negate up.
Oh, yeah. At this point, you just have to know. There's no other way, unless it's like the best bluff of all time. There is definitely a negate in your opponent's hand at this point if you're staring at that same 2 mana every turn.
All right, Hayu finally has that 5th land. But like we've been saying, this negate kind of matters. But you know what else gets around negate? Yorion.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Saying. I'm just saying. Not saying Hayu's necessarily going to cast here. Could. And I'm just saying it does get around the gate.
Seems like a good idea. Make all those tokens.
Hayu's just going to swing in. Applying pressure where she can. And then, there we go. What'd I say?
Good call there.
Sky Noodle. You get some life. You get some more tokens. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hearing Ellie get more excited about this match. Maybe this is a little less meatloaf here. A little more like smoke.
I mean, all right, fine. It's meatloaf with ketchup on top or whatever it is that you savages eat. I don't know.
It is important to note real quick before I lose track of this. With every single Amelia's Call that comes down as a land, that is one less potential win con for the folks that are playing it. Because again, there isn't a ton of win cons in either of these two decks. It's more or less a war of attrition here. Who can get that little bit of nickel and dime one at a time at this point, especially while both players are fairly set up at this point.
So Skyclave Apparition came down for Amanda and went right for the Omen of the Sun. We do see Amanda does have a Yorion in her hand. That could be a factor here. Oh, hello, Hylisect.
Well, you might as well. You know, your opponent already suspects it. Why not?
Yeah, just fire it off. I mean, I think this will allow for Hayu to play the Treacherous Blessing. I think the pathway flips to a black land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's no negate in sight. Gonna definitely see some blocks here. All right, Amanda down to 2. And then, yep, here we go.
Ooh, speaking of win cons, that is a Barrens on the other side. So you can start feeding the land for every mana you don't use. As long as it's at least 4, you can start feeding the land. All right.
Amanda's in a little bit of trouble here, right? With this, because even playing this Yorion, And can't really swing. But as we can see, she's at 2, but Hayu has a Elspeth Conquers Death, which is going to take care of one of those blockers. And by one of them, I mean Yorion.
Well, found another use for Elspeth's Nightmare. You can't do much with Dance of the Mance either.
Well, there we go. Yep. Hayu played that game very well, playing around a gate, bluffing Amanda into using her negate, letting her Treacherous Blessing. Yeah, played that game very well. Really excited to see how game 2 goes.
No Archon of Sun's Grace yet, but I have a feeling we might see it in this next match, as there's going to be more of it on both sides.
Yep, Amanda's bringing it in, trimming some wraths.
Okay, just came to a realization. This is supposed to be, it's called Esper Doom, right? It's not Esper Control. This is Esper Doom. Where was Doom Foretold? All that time went by. Not one Doom Foretold. I guess that's what happens when you play 2 80-card decks thanks to Yorion's companionship.
Indeed. Means sometimes you're only going to see part of your deck. Chances of you seeing 4 out of 80 is less than if 4 out of 60.
All right. So what's going in here? The Ugin is coming in, as I had suspected.
Dance of the Mance coming out.
How about that Heliod's Intervention? I didn't even consider that card in this matchup, but that could be a pretty big blowout. If you combine that with Elspeth's Nightmare's Graveyard Exile, that renders Dance of the Mance useless.
Yeah, did we see, did Amanda keep her dances in?
I believe, well, actually, now that I think about it, I'm not entirely sure. That's a good point. With Elspeth's Nightmare, it might have been a side out. Yeah.
Here's Doom Foretold.
Interesting opener for both folks here. The fact that we get the Barons in one hand, but then we get one of each color in the other hand, I'd say both of these hands are keepers. There was a side out, now that I'm thinking about it, of all Doom Foretolds and Dance on the side of Hayu.
So Amanda chose to just go to 6, ship that hand, keeping Doom Foretold, clearly not what she wanted to see, I guess, but got an egg and an omen of the sun. And Hayu's hand over there.
A lot of lands so far.
Well, happens.
Also, 2 extinction events also for Hayu to start. 3.
A lot of pass go.
Do I hear 4? Oh, goodness. Temples, though, are going to come in handy here. You're not doing much really early, so it's nice to kind of scry either to the top or to the bottom, depending on what your desires are, since you're not going to pay the price for playing a scry land here. Or you hold up the dispute as well. Also a possibility.
Well, it's not like there's much going on in Hayu's hand. It's kind of reactive.
But you see 3 lands open and you can't help but wonder. But Hayu wonders, okay, I think I'm going to want this Yorion in my hand. And of course, we see the Omen of the Sun response here.
Gonna discard a card here for Hayu. Unsurprised to see it be one of 3 extinction events. Another land for Amanda. But, you know, we're going to bring Hayu down to 15. And now
right,
Amanda's going to put that Yorion into her hand. What was it? Tap lands? That's a temple? Yeah. Ooh, being patient.
There's the negate.
We love to play a land. We love to play a land and pass with all of our open mana. Feels good.
Especially when you can still inflict 2 damage. And again, Hayu also has the Barons, so that's something we're going to keep an eye on during this match. That's one of the breaker cards.
Amanda deciding casting Yorion, got 5 mana, but Hayu has mana open, so what can I expect here? And as we can see, Hayu does have that mystical dispute, so we're just going to sit in the tank, see what we want to risk.
Lot of time spent in the tank here, and of course, when you're facing a control meter, that's totally to be expected here. Going for the Yorion, and we're gonna see that mystical dispute.
Ooh, is that an Elspeth Nightmare? Hello. That's gonna come down, take a token, and then threaten Amanda's hand. Amanda's hand next turn. But, oh, hello. Heliod's intervention. Nice. But man, we're gonna... Casting the Elspeth Conquers Death. I'm assuming to take care of the Nightmare, but that's rough because now it's like Amanda has no mystical dispute, only 1 mana left. She can't win a counter war with this. And negates can take care of ECD. Hayu untapping in a great position here. Gonna take some more resources out of Amanda's hand. Which to take?
Probably the intervention because it's more versatile, but it also depends on if you can handle one of your spells being negated on a longer timeline.
Well, we got a Sky Noodle, which is going to importantly take out that other token because the Elspeth Nightmare and draw a card. Feels good. Oh, hello. Is that a Dance of the Manse, which doesn't really have, only has 1 target.
It's a good target.
I've seen worse targets. Does have the mana to do it. Might just be what their only options is shields are down on Hayu's side. Like you mentioned before, things happen when people tap out.
That certainly was a card to draw in this situation. Elspeth Conquers Death can get rid of either the Yorion or the Nightmare. Probably the Yorion here. I like the move here. Can get back both of them now as a result. And they will miss the Elspeth's Nightmare trigger as a result. And choosing to value the board state makes sense. Although now you lose a valuable card here.
Yeah, negate's gone, but I mean, Hayu's still in a good position, right? Because we're going to have this treacherous blessing come down. You know, we have more cards than our opponent. It's not the worst going to potentially get more cards.
Yeah, and the only real scary part here is, you know, you're down to so much. You don't want to play a Treacherous Blessing while you're too low. Otherwise, you can't play any more spells and you lose as a result. But with the egg on the field, that can gain life. So that will help out that situation.
How are you being patient, not firing off an Omen of the Sea while after that, in response to that second chapter? Just waiting. Yep. Holding up that negate. Classic control, just keeping their opponent from having any fun.
There has to be some fun, though, if there's two control decks doing this, no?
Do I have to bring up the meatloaf again?
Oh, no. I have a feeling that metaphor is coming back the next time we do this cast.
Yeah. So, you know, there's no reason. We got, you know, just sit back, relax. That Elspeth Conquers Death, that third chapter is not really going to do anything. Gonna
good call.
Smartly see an Omen of the Sea scry here. Eggs. Love eggs.
Ooh, that's a decent draw, considering.
Oh, and there we go. We see that crawling Barons.
That's a play.
Yeah.
It's funny. I told everyone to keep an eye on that, and then I didn't keep an eye on that and consider that for a possibility.
Well, that's done. What I'm here for. That's what you got me here for. I'm going to see coming down. Gonna draw some more cards here. Oh, is that a sky noodle? Another one?
It's another noodle, and you got to do it here, right? Like the only card you could be afraid of at this point is actually no. You can probably get around just about most counter spells here. I'd have to see if Essence Scatter was in here, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, Yorion's gonna come down. Get some things. Oh, so much value. So much value for Hayu. So much. Unfortunately, I don't expect that Yorion to stay around, but you know, maybe we get a oh goodness. Oh bless. Oh, that's a grip of cards. Got an Ugin in there. Got an Archon of Sun's Grace. Yeah, even if this Yorion gets taken out by the Skyclave apparition, man is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I would definitely group the word trouble in with your opponent has an Ugin in hand that is ready to strike at any moment.
Yeah. Ooh, this could matter, right? We're sacrificing Omen of the Sea, so that Skyclave apparition might end up getting Mystical Disputed. And now Mana doesn't have the mana to pay for it.
Another egg.
Oh, Manda. Oh, my sweet summer child.
This is rough. You're playing a control mirror. You're staring at an opponent's hand, which is maximum size. Meanwhile, you're sitting on 2 cards and just going card for card here. This is going to be tough to come back from.
Uh-huh. Will the Skyclave apparition come down? Looks like no.
Nah.
Man's gonna be patient, not run it into a counterspell. Just wait a minute.
I appreciate the life gain there by Hayu. You know, you're under 10 at that point, and it's just like, I don't want to take a chance on just suddenly losing. So very, very much appreciate that play.
Yeah, see, this is where I would just be like, yeah, I don't really care. Because I have an Ugin in my hand, I'm going to win, so it doesn't matter. Let's see. We got an Arcanum Sun's Grave coming down, followed up by an Elspeth Conqueror's Death. Going to give Hayu a Pegasus, which is very nice. And these things have lifelink, so Treacherous Blessing, not super worried about it.
Yeah, the tap down there by Hayu, and you can't help but wonder what if you run. There's a variety of spells that could be run into here that you may want to keep mana up for, but taking a chance that paid off.
Well, it didn't hurt.
Yeah. Do you just put down the Ugin at this point?
Well, I mean, we got combat. Let's not skip the best part of the game. Let's not skip the combat.
Finally get some combat. We're away from that meatloaf just ever so slightly here.
And then
there you go.
Hello Darkness, my old friend, as I like to refer to Ugin.
Minus 3.
Minus and 3. Keeps your Yuri on. Just gets rid of the thing that you really don't care about, which is Treacherous Blessing. Skyclave Apparition also goes.
Now, it is important to note that those eggs will not go away because they're colorless, but I totally respect wanting the life there.
Yeah, I mean, oof.
No, just lands on lands on lands here towards
lands.
the end.
And this is, I believe, we're definitely going to see, we're going to see Crawling Barons come in. Yeah, Hayu sees the blood in the water, going to go straight for the attack. Putting mana to 5 within lethal range, and a land is just not going to do it. GG. And Hayu, I believe, goes to 3-0.
Yes, very excited for Hayu. I was talking to Hayu earlier in the week about VML so far, overall impressions, and just very excited for that strong start. Now only to be added by another win here, 3-0. Congratulations and GG to Hayu, and just great performance overall of the Doom Foretold mirror, which I don't believe a single Doom Foretold was played throughout the duration of that match. So
you would be correct
there.
No Doom Foretold, probably not the best card in the mirror, but yeah, that match actually ended up being pretty interesting. Came down to a lot of little decisions. Hayu playing around the gates, just the Crawling Barons being there, a lot of little things. And I love the Ugin. I love Ugin. So yeah, love that match. I actually really did enjoy it. I know I cracked some jokes about it being meatloaf, but I'm just kidding. I do enjoy matches like that where it comes down to these little micro decisions. So I think some really smart sideboarding decisions were made. So that was awesome too. That was awesome to see. So congratulations to both players. Like we said, Hayu is now 3-0, top of the division. And I believe Amanda is 0-3. I think. Pretty sure. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun. What do we think about those games?
I think that we had a terrific variety of games. I can't get away from the meatloaf thing, Ellie. I don't know what to think anymore about that, but I'm sorry. Once you establish a meme on your first cast, you kind of have to own it at this point. So I appreciate your commentary.
I have feelings about meatloaf. Not great. But yeah, no, it was got to see interesting decks. We got to see what's on the top of the meta. We got to see Rogues, Doom, Adventures all doing their thing. Unsurprisingly, Ramp unfortunately not doing well, and also, yeah. But got to see a lot of good variants. Good luck to those players. We'd just like to say before we go, thanks everyone for spending your time watching us, supporting the stream. Definitely support these players. If you want, you can take it a step further. You can, any subs that happen to the stream, if you sub to the stream, that contributes to the prize pool. You can donate, contribute to the prize pool, support these players even more. So thank you at the very least for your time, spending your time with us. Shout out to our sponsors, Nerd Rage Gaming, as well as Wizards of the Coast. And don't forget about Nerd Rage Gaming, NRG Series, their event on February 21st with some cash prizes. Playing Modern, going to be on Moto, going to be great. Also, very important, thanking Wizards for giving that invite to who's ever number one. And maybe it'll be Caroline. Maybe it'll be Caroline for a third time. We'll see. Also, let's not forget CFP Pro. 1 year of CFP Pro will also be given to our winner. So had a really, really great evening. Thank you so much for commentating with me. We had such a good time. I hope y'all had a good time. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time commentating next to you, Ellie. And also, I do want to thank VML for having me and Ellie. This has been a tremendous honor to be here doing commentary for one of my favorite Magic tournaments. So thank you so much for having both of us. We appreciate it.
Yep. So that'll do it for us. GG's, everyone. You all have a great night. Have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. And we will catch you next time. Bye.